David Hume, born in the early 18th century, is one of the most influential philosophers in Western thought. His work, A Treatise of Human Nature, published in 1739, laid the foundation for empiricism and skepticism in philosophy. Hume's attempt to create a science of human nature based on observation and experience set him apart from many of his predecessors and contemporaries. The treatise is divided into 3 books, of the understanding, of the passions, and of morals, covering topics such as knowledge, emotions, and ethics. Though initially met with little success, the ideas presented in the treatise profoundly shaped modern philosophy. Book 1, of the Understanding. The first book of the treatise explores human cognition and knowledge. Hume begins by distinguishing between impressions and ideas. Impressions are the vivid, direct experiences we have, while ideas are the faint copies of these impressions that we form in our minds. According to Hume, all knowledge begins with impressions, and without them, we cannot form ideas. This leads to his famous claim that any idea that cannot be traced back to an impression is meaningless. Hume also introduces his theory of causation in this book. He argues that humans do not perceive actual causal connections in the world, rather, they observe constant conjunctions between events and infer causality from them. For instance, when we see one billiard ball strike another and then watch the second ball move, we assume that the first caused the motion of the second. However, Hume argues that this is merely a habit of thought, not a reflection of any real causal power. This radical skepticism about causation would later influence philosophers such as Immanuel Kant. Hume's famous problem of induction is also discussed in this section. He points out that while we rely on inductive reasoning to make sense of the world, for example, assuming the sun will rise tomorrow based on past experience, there is no logical justification for believing that the future will resemble the past. This insight challenges the basis of scientific reasoning and remains a central issue in epistemology. Book 2, of the Passions. In the second book, Hume turns to human emotions and passions, which he sees as the driving forces behind human behavior. Hume rejects the notion that reason alone governs our actions, stating instead that reason is, and ought only to be, the slave of the passions. By this, he means that while reason can guide us in determining how to achieve our goals, it is our passions that set those goals in the first place. Hume classifies passions into 2 types, direct and indirect. Direct passions arise immediately from good or bad experiences, such as pleasure or pain. Indirect passions, on the other hand, arise from more complex situations involving personal relationships, social standing, or property. These include emotions like pride, humility, love, and hatred. One of Hume's key contributions in this book is his exploration of sympathy. He argues that humans have a natural tendency to sympathize with the feelings of others, which helps explain moral and social behavior. Sympathy allows individuals to extend their personal emotions and judgments to others, fostering social cohesion and moral understanding. This focus on emotions and their influence on human conduct significantly influenced later ethical theories, particularly those of Adam Smith. Book 3, of Morals. The third book of the treatise addresses morality. Hume challenges traditional moral theories that base ethics on reason or divine command. Instead, he asserts that morality is rooted in human sentiment. According to Hume, moral judgments are not derived from reason but from feelings of approval or disapproval. This view is known as moral sentimentalism. Hume introduces the concept of artificial virtues and natural virtues. Natural virtues, such as benevolence or kindness, arise naturally from human emotions and relationships. Artificial virtues, on the other hand, are social constructs that promote stability and cooperation, such as justice and property rights. Hume argues that while natural virtues are universally recognized, artificial virtues are developed through human conventions and agreements to serve society's interests. Justice, for example, is not an inherent human trait but a social agreement necessary for societal order. Hume illustrates this point with the idea of property. In a world of abundance, there would be no need for property laws. However, in the real world, where resources are scarce, humans have developed a system of property rights to prevent conflict and ensure mutual cooperation. In this book, Hume also addresses the is-ought problem, which has become a significant topic in metaethics. He argues that one cannot derive an ought from an is, meaning that moral prescriptions, what we ought to do, cannot be logically deduced from factual statements, what is. This insight has had a lasting impact on debates about the nature of moral reasoning and ethical theory. Hume's influence and legacy. Though A Treatise of Human Nature was not well received at the time of its publication, Hume's ideas eventually gained widespread recognition and have had a profound influence on subsequent philosophical thought. His skepticism about the limits of human knowledge and his emphasis on experience as the foundation of all knowledge challenged traditional views of metaphysics and epistemology. This empiricist approach laid the groundwork for later philosophical movements such as positivism and analytic philosophy. Hume's philosophy also had a significant impact on moral theory and political philosophy. His rejection of reason as the source of morality, in favor of sentiment and passion, paved the way for later sentimentalist and emotivist theories of ethics. His views on justice, property, and social order influenced thinkers such as Jean-Jacques Rousseau and John Stuart Mill, and his ideas about the formation of social conventions have resonated in modern theories of political legitimacy. Immanuel Kant, perhaps the most significant philosopher of the late 18th century, famously credited Hume with awakening him from his dogmatic slumber. Hume's critique of causality and induction led Kant to develop his own theory of knowledge, which sought to address the limitations Hume exposed in empiricism. Kant's critique of pure reason can be seen as an attempt to resolve the issues Hume raised, particularly the problem of causality and the nature of human understanding. In the field of economics, Hume's ideas also left a mark. His discussions on human nature, social conventions, and the role of sympathy influenced Adam Smith, a fellow Scot and the father of modern economics. Smith's The Theory of Moral Sentiments and the Wealth of Nations reflect Humean ideas about human behavior, moral sentiment, and the role of self-interest in economic systems. David Hume's A Treatise of Human Nature remains a landmark work in the history of philosophy. Its examination of human cognition, emotions, and morality continues to inspire debates in philosophy, psychology, and political theory. Hume's skepticism, empiricism, and focus on human passions have had a lasting influence on Western thought, shaping the development of modern philosophy. His insights into the limits of human knowledge, the nature of causality, and the foundations of morality have earned him a place among the most important philosophers in history. Though his work was underappreciated during his lifetime, its profound impact on later generations ensures that Hume's legacy endures.